and welcome to American Amnesia. I'm your host, Cliff Garner, and have a couple milestones here. First of all, we hit 21 subscribers, which we hit 20 at one point, and one person left. I guess I'm doing something right. I still have the ability to offend people, and but we're up to 21. And so we had two more that joined just fairly recently. Second milestone here, we are up to 1,600 views. We just crossed that milestone today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And we're a bit above that now. I haven't had anything put on lately. I spent quite a bit of time getting on the Mark Andrew Job interview. It took some doing. We had some difficulties with the recording of it at first, and then getting it processed. Once we finally got everything together, then I also put the video content to it. I've just found some software that I already possessed that can work for that, and I'm fiddling with it and figuring it out. I'll be doing more with production and stuff. Also, I do have some better software, but I've been having trouble getting it loaded onto my computer. I'm not sure what the problem is. I'll talk to my computer guy here pretty soon. But if you haven't checked out the Mark Job interview, please do. I think you'll find it very interesting. Mark's an interesting fellow. He's a Canadian a Christian filmmaker, and he has a lot of knowledge, and he discusses a great many things. I learned quite a bit talking to Mark. I've known him for quite a while now, and some of it I knew, but there's some things he just pulls it out of the air, and I find it amazing. And we will have Mark back again soon. I'm looking forward to it, to report hopefully some great news for him. There's a couple things that should be forming and shaping up for him here, and in my prayers and good thoughts go out to him for hopefully that he will do those. Anyway, also this is that program and some of the others that I will be making will be presented also on Like Flint Radio. Some of the things that I've done on politics and things are being cleaned up and put onto Like Flint Radio, and that's at likeflintradio.com. It's a podcast, Christian podcast on Revelation Networks, and we've been on there for quite a while now. And I'm also wanting to polish up a few of the old episodes and putting them on here with some video content, maybe soon. I hope. There's a few of them. I'd like to get things such as some of the stuff that we did on Umberto Eco, and also things on like the Templars. I'd like to get put on here pretty soon. And I would like to do some further work with that. There's some other interviews I'm in the process of lining up, and I think you'll find that these are pretty interesting people that I'm choosing. And plus, there's some of the old interviews that I'd like to put on here. For example, maybe Harvey Jett from Black Oak, Arkansas, and also David Roll, the archaeologist and Egyptologist in particular, in his his interview with us, which is just fascinating. I'd like to talk to him again soon. There's some things that I've been reading up on, and I'd like to talk to him again in the near future. So there's some projects that are in the works. I haven't talked to David Roll in a little while, but I'd like to get him back on too. And I'd also like to get Harvey back on to see how he's doing. I think he's got a new album out. Anyway, those are some of the things in the works. I've been very busy with school. I'm still grading final papers and things, and I'll have that pretty much finished up here in a couple days, and I'll have more time to devote to doing this. Like I say, I've been trying to line some stuff up, but I've just been really busting my butt between work and trying to find what I'm going to be doing this summer. I'm not really even sure what I'm doing this summer yet. Probably working a little for Hope School and as a sub, and I'm trying to find a couple other things to do. So anyway, with school's ending, and that's good. I should have some more time, at least for this. It is. I should have some more time for this, but I do need to make sure I have something to pay my bills. I'm trying to finish paying on a very nice ukulele, actually. And I've been playing around with music a little bit. I haven't had as much time as I'd like to practice for the last couple months. It's just been so hectic with school and work and trying to find out what I'm doing in the near future. Making a living here in Illinois is not as easy as it is going back abroad, but I've been wanting to be at home. It's a little bit safer here. I lived in Turkey for 6.5 years, and Erdogan started shooting my neighbors. So I put up with that for over a year, and my poor mother, she feels much better that I'm closer to home, and that I am home actually, and that my safety is an important thing for her, but really it was getting to the point where I was kind of spinning my tires too, and then it was getting also clear that with the situation as it was developing there, it was untenable in the long run. In the news today, several of Erdogan's, his bodyguard came unglued and was beating protesters in Washington, D.C. People are asking me if that was normal, and I'm afraid it really is. Erdogan's bodyguards have beat on the people of Turkey for a long time. There's a very famous incident. I forget the name of the mining town, but there was a mining town that had a disaster in which many men were caught in the mining shafts, and they were unable to get them out, and several of them died. And so Erdogan went down there for that great photo op, I'm so sorry for this and that and the other, and the people there are like, well, hey, what are you going to do about it? He had been busting the unions for one thing, but he was also reducing the laws on safety, and the people were upset about it, and he didn't want to hear it. And next thing you know, he chased one guy into a room, and allegedly, now they don't have it on film, but several of the witnesses initially said that Erdogan actually struck the man personally. Now, he and the others kind of changed their mind, but it was probably somebody coming on their doorstep and telling them to change their story. This other guy that got hit, he got beat up several times, and he kept changing his story to where he was actually apologizing to Erdogan. Oh, I'm so sorry for talking the way I did. It's not right. What he has done in Turkey is a shame. Period. And what he was doing while he was here, I'm going to assume isn't a whole lot better. I'm going to guess it's about the same too. So I don't have a lot of good to say about him. I did at one time, but I have changed my opinion, and what good I did have to say, I have to take back now and say that he has undone it all. Not only has he become a dictator, but he has not done the people any good. That's even worse, as far as I'm concerned. Today, May 17th, 2017, the special prosecutor was appointed today to look into the so-called Russia connections to President Trump. I've been saying all along, in fact, even longer than he has been president-elect, I mean, this is before the election, that this tactic of going after Russia is going to reach up and bite the Democrats on the ass. And I have not changed my mind on this. There's a lot of reasons behind my saying that. But the main one is Hillary Clinton herself and the dealings that she had with the Russians. These are the same people that they're accusing Trump of having something to do with. One of the things that's in the charter for the special prosecutor, I guess his name is Mueller, and he was the former head of the FBI himself. One of the things that he is charged with is not only being able to go after anything that occurs as far as his investigation into President Trump, but anything else he might uncover in the process of investigation. That would include the Democrats. Hello. So what you're going to see, I have the feeling, is that the Democrats are going to finally get their just rewards. You've been clamoring for it for a long time, and your person was illegal. She was making all kinds of dirty devil's deals, and she was trying to bind us up by them. And a lot of it had to do with Russia. That whole thing with the uranium, that's just for starters. I mean, the money that the kickbacks that were made into speaking fees. Are you kidding? No. You're going to see some things that are going to come back on him, and I'm afraid that maybe you got what you asked for, and you're not going to like it. I'm afraid that I'm going to not feel too sorry for you. I'm not. And there it goes. And that's where it probably will go. It will probably drag them down. There are sufficient connections between Hillary Clinton and her people with all kinds of illegality. And a lot of it has to do with Russia. That's exactly why they even started yelling it. They wanted to draw the attention away from themselves and put it onto Trump. Well, Trump wasn't doing that. Now with Trump, I'm more concerned about Flynn with Turkey. A lot more concerned about Flynn with Turkey. Flynn took big time money from Erdogan. Big time. And the whole situation in Syria reeks of Erdogan interfering in our process here of running our own country by manipulating ISIS. ISIS is his baby. He was the one that chose them. He's the one that armed them. He's the one that trained them. He let them come in and out of the country. That's why they're the Chinese box they are. They open up and fold and collapse and go away because he allows them over through the border. We don't see where they're going because we're not keeping track of them there. They're not supposed to be going there. But he keeps supplying them by MIT, which is their CIA FBI mixture. And he got busted. I mean, he got busted. It was 2014, I think. Maybe 13. He got busted in Adana with all those trucks that he was sending out. The MIT people were there, and they threw fits about it. And that's why he went after the Gillen group. And I have plans to come in with some of the stuff that I've been researching on Gillen and his organization. Really important information as far as understanding what's going on in Turkey. What's happening right now is that Erdogan is trying to consolidate power. I really didn't notice that there was anything significant that came out of the meetings that the two of them had. I'm going to guess, and this is just guesswork. I haven't even seen any articles that explain much of anything that they did. I mean, they met in public and they exchanged pleasantries and stuff like that. And then Erdogan's bodyguards come unglued today and just started beating on people here in the U.S. That's which is really, really so telling of who he is. I mean, he's a piece of crap. He's not. There's no other word for it. He's a piece of crap, and that kind of activity was commonplace in Turkey. I mean, very emblematic was that video of that young guy, up and coming member of his entourage, kicking a man while he was down on the ground. And while he's, in his suit, looking totally arrogant. I mean, that is Erdogan and his people summed up so well. And it was emblematic. It was mimetic. Let's put it that way. It captured the zeitgeist of Turkey, and even now. It really does explain the picture of what's going on there. His people kicking the people while they're down. That's it. That's exactly what they're doing there. The guy was already subdued by security people, and this guy comes out of the car and kicks him. While he's sitting on the ground trying to get up, and he kicks him while he's sitting there. Just amazing. But then again, our deep state, that's what they're trying to do to the people here. I mean, they've been demonizing us, and they accuse us of being the problem. The problem is that the elite has lost touch with the people. It has lost touch with the so-called mission that they have established for themselves. The elite exists in order to preserve the not democracy, but the democratic republic. To enable that to work without it recoiling on itself. But they've lost so much touch with the people. What they did is they gave out all the jobs. They took all our prosperity, threw it overseas, and stuck it in their own pockets as it came back. That is not the way it should be done. And they're taking over the world. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that's why the globalists love them so much, because they're putting the global community into an order in which the elites in each country are able to sit there and feast. But everything goes downhill. What we're trying to do here in the U.S. is trying to pull it back and build it back up. And this is a pulling it up by the bootstraps kind of idea. And that it's necessary. People aren't going to be able to do anything in the information economy if they don't have jobs to back it. And they've even sent those information jobs overseas, those commuter jobs that were supposed to be so lucrative and so important for our economy in the future. Well, they undermined it itself. They destroyed even what they were saying they were building up here. And then they get angry at the people for being angry at having nothing. Well, what you took a guy away from having a decent job working in a factory, and then you gave him a job at McDonald's, and that wasn't enough, so he had to get another part-time job over at Wendy's. And you wonder why he's mad. And he's not just white; he's black too. The only thing is the blacks, well, they're coming off of that good buzz with Obama. But there's some that have already come off the buzz. And there's going to be more of them. And they're going to see that they don't have doodly squat. And they're working 2 jobs at fast food restaurants to make ends meet. Or they're getting beat up for their efforts by the so-called establishment that's supposed to be backing them. And if they don't agree with everything that they say, they're an Uncle Tom. Look what they just did to that Miss USA. They beat her up for her beliefs. And she's not even from here. Not originally. She's an immigrant. But she's black. So, of course, she has to say the party line there. Well, guess what? Maybe blacks aren't a monolith either. Maybe they can think for themselves. I know that there are quite a few of them that do. And you're going to see more. Oh, this has just started. This has just started. The kettle is boiling over. It's like putting toothpaste back in a toothpaste tube after if you squeezed it. No. That doesn't happen. You got a big mess. The elite's never going to come out of this quite the same. The fact is that the check and balance for the elite is the people. That's why they gave us the Second Amendment. I mean, you think about it. Actually, we're given the permission by the Founding Fathers, actually, to hunt them bastards. If that's what they're doing. If they're undoing the Republic, it's time to take them down. Now, I don't like the idea of shooting anybody. I don't even have a gun. But the point is that the Second Amendment's there to protect the people. William O. Douglas. I was trying to remember his name a little while back. William O. Douglas is the one that wrote the book on Points of Rebellion. The Second Amendment is key to that book. Points of Rebellion. That we are supposed to overthrow the government if it has become oppressive. It is our obligation. It is given to us, the people, to do that. Simple. And they don't want to talk about that. They tried to bury that book when it came out. The Democrats did, and he was a Democrat. He was appointed, I believe it was by FDR himself. So when you look at things in a longer view, with the historical context, that is what the Second Amendment is about. The militia, well, the standing army was never to be trusted. In fact, it was disbanded. The militia was supposed to be the people, and people would go in, they'd drill, and they'd carry arms. But they also were supposed to oppose any military force within the country if it became oppressive. That was also another part of that. And if you read the Federalist Papers, I mean, this is all over the place. It's all over the place. You know, don't fool yourselves. The Second Amendment is to enable the people to be able to overthrow the government if it is necessary. It has never been necessary. We've been very fortunate, really. Although we could pick any number of times where they probably should have. I think Gilded Age might be a really good example. When you had people that were becoming that far separated economically from the average person, and that they were actually insulating themselves against the power of the people to affect them. But you had things like Teddy Roosevelt with this antitrust movement, which never went far enough, but at the same time it is still there. And this is still a possibility today. I would like to see that. I would like to see trust busting, where some of the biggest conglomerations are broken down, especially if they have overtaken too much of a particular field. They should be broken down. Banks, definitely. Too big to fail? No. Mr. Obama, that was a bad move. Too big to fail should not exist. If it's too big to fail, it's the right size to be broken up. That's a fact. There is a point. And I don't particularly like the idea of penalizing somebody for making too damn much money. But if there is a point to where they are affecting everybody else in the country and the world, when those bankers screwed over the American public and worked with the Standard & Poor and had them misrepresent the quality of those investments, the bundled mortgages. When they did that, and that illegal action there, they went too far. And the consequence of the economic meltdown that occurred didn't just hurt America. It hit everywhere. Believe me. I lived in Turkey, and it affected the economy in Turkey severely. I almost had to come home not long after getting there, because the lira went from being roughly about 80 cents to dropping to like less than 50. I couldn't afford to live there if that was going to be the case. But it came up. It fought its way back up. It got up in the 60s. And it tanked again later on, but that was Erdogan's fault. But the other, that was America. That was America. It affected the economy there, in Turkey. It affected it everywhere. And to say that this is just American? No. That's worldwide. That's worldwide. And when you have people that have the ability to affect people worldwide, economically and financially, by their illegal actions, and then you turn around and call that business too big to fail? No. That is a business that needs to be dismantled. Glass-Steagall should be put back in place. And I'm all for that. But any company that's too big to fail without destroying the whole world's economy, it's too big to exist, and it needs to be broken up. That needs to be done. Obama didn't do it. Obama wormed his way out of it. That's what he should have done, though. He had a chance to come out with a shovel-ready jobs and be FDR. But in the long run, because of the illegality of what the bankers did, who gave him a lot of money, by the way. They paid for his inauguration, by the way. Both times. Wall Street. But the thing is that instead of being FDR in the long run, he should have been Teddy Roosevelt in the long run and broken up some of those banks. And he didn't do it. He took their money and let them get away with murder. The world will not forget that. You see, when he first got elected, people were very happy with me as an American. They were like, well, we're glad that you elected a black president. And it's like, well, I'm kind of glad we did too. I didn't have a problem with it on that account. I gave him a chance for a whole year before I really started criticizing. I wondered about some things, but I didn't criticize him for a whole year. And I studied on these derivatives and all this other stuff. You know, I had no idea what it was all about. It's like, what's this stuff? Well, now I know. And I'll do a program on those too, just so that you know. 'Cause it's really not that. It's not that complex if you really break it down. And some of my old postings on Facebook, I wrote some things that were kind of like small articles that dealt with the raw data on this stuff, and quite frankly, it's appalling. It's truly appalling, and I was calling for a reinstatement of Glass-Steagall back in 2009, and not only that, I was living in Turkey, you know, all this time. I watched the hope from a place where I saw the world's hope. You know, and you know, we don't. Very few people here in the U.S. will honestly be able to detach themselves and be able to look at the Obama years in the way I did. I was detached enough to where I didn't get called a racist every time I disagreed. And that's good, because I'm not, and I've never been one. And for them to do that over here really created a lot of ill will that's still being actually it's infected like a really bad disease, but that's because they won't lance the boil. It needs to be lanced. Some real ugly stuff's coming out anyway. I mean, you might as well get it to bleed fresh, and eventually I think it will. But and I do know people are trying to work on that, but at the same time, nobody wants to be honest about Obama both ways. I mean, there's going to be things that are going to be judged in the long run as good, but I think that the bad will pretty much outweigh it. He was not a very good president. He didn't really accomplish much, and what he did accomplish, I'm afraid, was more. Well, it was more of the neocon, neo-lib war everywhere, break down the borders of countries, and undermine their sovereignty, and move people around. Kind of nonsense, to where money and people and everything else is moved around at the will of the super rich that are given over the power that they have always sought. I don't have too much problem with the idea that there is a certain amount of elite interaction, because when you're talking about people that have a stake in things, they are going to have a certain amount of say in things. But by the same token, that has to be balanced with the needs of the people. This is where you get into your more advanced political thinking. So Harry Potter, listen up. There's a lot to be learned, and that's what I'm trying to show you all in some of these videos that I'm doing. That said, I will continue to do that. In fact, I'm trying really more to appeal to a broader, um, more, what do you call it? A wider and bigger picture of the situation than otherwise. I'm not dealing with the daily news here. I have no intention to. I want you to see the megatrends. I want you to see how those are shaping up and forming into other things and how that moves from one place to the next. And that, I think, is something that most people miss out on. We get plenty of the daily news, and the word we could use for it could, it sounds extremely dismissive because it really shouldn't be, but it's picayune, you know, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that sounds like you're knocking something for being to a certain extent ephemeral, not necessarily core idea. I deal with core ideas. That makes me a radical. A radix is the root of a word for radical, and it means root. If you're dealing with the core issue, you are, by definition, dealing with the radical cause, effect, or matter, I suppose, in general. That by doing so, that's exactly what you're doing. You're dealing with the root. You're dealing with the hard inside of it. Well, that's where I like to go, and we'll get to more of that. But I do have the feeling this special prosecutor is not going to work out quite the way that the Democrats have been hoping. I'm not too worried about the neocon Republicans. I have the feeling they're not going to like it very much either. Matter of fact, I think they should be afraid for their own asses, because I have the feeling they're going to have them handed back to them. The last thing I kind of want to just kind of touch on and kind of mention is this Seth Rich fellow. I've been talking about him quite a bit for a long time on my Facebook, and the one that really has done the great work on this has been H.A. Goodman. Although right now you've got people like the Hard Bastard that are actually drawing out some really interesting stuff. At least where it meets into the issues pertaining to the Democrats and their cover up of all this sort of thing. And I listen to both of them very regularly, and I have an extremely high regard for both of them. The Hard Bastard is a former liberal. I don't think you would really want to call him a conservative. I don't know if I'd want to say he's to the left of me, but he's right about where I'm at. And I consider myself a radical centrist. I went so far to the left I fell off the spectrum. And I found myself on the right for a while there, and I'm not too comfortable with that. But by the same token, I don't have too much problem with it. But I tend more towards a centrist position. In general, but I don't like the neocon, neolib center. There's a difference. See, that's like a parallel universe that's kind of been plastered over what appears to be a gap in the political spectrum, but it isn't. Actually, it's plastering over a very broad variety of ideas that have been oddly considered radical at times. Now there are radical ideas on the right and left that are radical indeed, and I find both of them rather offensive because they tend towards totalitarianism. I personally tended toward anarchism. Now I don't. I call myself a libertarian. But I'm not a libertarian. Generally speaking, anything that makes people freer is pretty much okay with me, generally speaking. I do recognize that good laws are necessary for the conduct of a good society. I also think that the welfare state does have its purposes, and that I don't think it's an all bad proposition. There's some theoretical and philosophical points that we can get into that, you want to go that route? Oh, okay, well, I'll go with that. And yeah, sure, taxation is theft. I'll go with that. But at the same time, I recognize the need for it. It's not like we can just throw government away. That's not feasible. Having no one to govern is not feasible. But I do like what the founding fathers did as far as restraining the people that do latch on to power. I think that was that what they did was effective. I think they had the right idea in mind, and I think they had their heart in the right place on it. I went from having nothing but contempt for those guys as a bunch of slaveholders to realizing that they were men that had ethical issues and they struggled with them, and really, outside of the facts of surrounding their issues are different than our issues are today. But they're beleaguered in the same way people are today by a different set of issues. The assumptions that they had to hold true are a little bit different today than they were then too. So, it's things change. But underneath that change, they still remain pretty much the same in most ways. More ways than not. So what we have to come to the conclusion of isn't so much to sit there and point our finger at them for being the men that they were in the time that they lived in, but to recognize that they were just like us, that they were dealing with the issues that they had to deal with, and they had to deal with their own conscience in their own way. And it wasn't always clean. It wasn't always easy. And there were some parts that they really couldn't rationalize. And I think you find that when you look at Thomas Jefferson and the things that he struggled with when he looked at his slaves. So, I've come full circle on them. And I did a long time ago. It was one of those matters. I worked it out. I'm no longer angry at them for being who they were and not being the perfect paragons of virtue they should have been, in my opinion, because I'm sitting here 200 years plus down the road. That's not fair to ask of them. See, that's part of the beauty of having been a medieval scholar for as long as I have been. I have to grapple with the ideas and things of that time, and realize that they're human, and not only are they human, but I can't expect them to be 21st century people. It's not a fair thing to ask. You have to look at them from their place that they were at. What is the nature of the world they lived in? How is it different from today? You need to learn empathy. And as a young person, I don't think we, are. I don't know that you can teach someone to be empathetic. I know that I was a very detached person. I suppose in some ways kind of cruel because I would sacrifice people for theoretical ideas. And that comes with being idealistic. An idealistic person isn't always necessarily a good person, even though they think they are. They think that they're being pure of heart. But they'll kill a person out of a principle in a heartbeat. Oh my. So, is that good? Maybe not. But I understand a young person's motivations. They want to do what's right. They want to change the world. They want to make the world a better place. They have this vision. I know that I did of the perfect world. Now, we won't go into how many people would require killing off to make it perfect, but that's neither here nor there. You kind of just think, well, it's for the principle, it's for what's right. This is what's right, and by golly, I know it's right, and let's get on with it now. It should have been done yesterday. So when you have a guy like Rich, he's a young man. He's what, 27 years old, and he joins the Democratic Party, and he thinks that he's going to actually affect positive change in the world, and you can't blame him for that. I think we all have that urge. I think, or at least a certain amount of it, especially when we're teenagers and early 20s. And when we start seeing the real world for what it is, there's a lot of disappointment that comes with that. It takes the shine off of you. It really does. It takes that off of you in a way that you might be cruel enough to sacrifice thousands, if not millions of people for a principle. But that's all theoretical, it's abstracted. But when you actually start seeing reality, real people with real needs, and you're seeing that those needs aren't being met, what you're seeing is instead they're getting handed platitudes, and they're given these symbolic actions, these platitudes that sound wonderful. Oh yeah, we're doing it for your good. Yeah, we do it for your good. Anytime they say that, you should check and make sure that nothing's sliding up the back of your pants. And you're seeing real people actually getting screwed over real things and for real money. That's exactly what he was seeing. How disappointing that would have to be. You're thinking that you're going to make the world a better place, so you're actually helping the black people in the inner cities, and you're actually helping all these poor Hispanic people living in the barrios in the West. You really think you're making a difference. You're helping working people all across the Midwest and the Rust Belt, and you're seeing nothing going to them, and they're all working at a restaurant or two, or doing just whatever they can get their hands on just to make a few bucks. And they're asking where the jobs are. And you're seeing that they're not doing a thing about it. Instead, the people that you're working with are in bed with Goldman Sachs, making millions of dollars and selling out the very people that they say that they're protecting. I wouldn't just be disappointed. I would be furious. I can only guess what that young man felt, because I know the changes that came over me over the years, because I saw the difference between theory and practice, that I saw the difference between rhetoric and reality, that I saw that they were giving people platitudes, patting them on the head and telling them to go away. Everything's just fine, just leave it up to us. But they weren't doing anything. They weren't doing anything except enriching themselves. Yeah, I understand how he felt. He probably wanted to burn the whole frickin' thing down. And why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he want to burn it all down? It's surely not what it was said. He was sold a bill of goods. He was sold an ideology. He was sold a belief system. And there are a lot of people who believe in that belief system. And he dealt with them every day. But he was seeing the reality of what was going on. And he had to look at those people who believed and know that they were being deceived. And put a good face on it. And get them out there to vote on it. How do you think he felt? I know how I would have felt. Yeah, WikiLeaks, yeah. That would be a good place to go. And that's the thing. No one disputes the facts. Nobody even talks about the facts. The facts are John Podesta, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, massive numbers of people in the media right now who are screaming for Trump's head. All those people lied, cheated, and stole for power in a very blatant manner. And who they were betraying was the people themselves. Can you justify that? I can't. See, that's why I couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But I knew about her before. I saw what happened in Benghazi. I mean, that took care of my problems with her. I mean, it just told me everything I needed to know about her. I watched what they did in Syria. I watched what they did with the Arab Spring. And I watched what happened with those Syrian refugees and how they were exploited by the ISIS boys in the camps, and how their coyotes would take them to the cities in Turkey and would turn them out in the streets and use them to beg. And they would take their money. They would set an old person up with a young child because the old person wasn't sympathetic enough on their own. They had to give a child in the middle of it so that people would start crying. And I'd watch them plan their whole thing on the bus. And I'd watch them set up and keep an eye on those people. If they kept a nickel for themselves, they'd probably beat them. You want to talk to me about the refugees? I'll tell you a few things about them. That's one of them that I saw. But I also know that those coyotes are coming with them to exploit them. And so the ISIS bastards. I saw them too. You want to talk to me about this stuff? Are you sure? Yeah, I know about it. I watched it happen. And you think that I am going to give Obama a pass on that? No, I'm not. He did it. It was Hillary's idea, yeah, sure. But he went along with it. And he took the money. Then you got John Kerry. I probably met him back in the 70s when he was still a protester. I'm talking about a formative influence. But I don't trust him anymore. I haven't for a long time. I listen to him speak and it makes me want to throw up because he's betrayed what I thought was a higher ideal. You wonder why I'm not a Democrat. I used to vote for Democrats. I won't anymore. They'd be few and far between. There's not too many Tulsi Gabbards out there. She's about the only one I have any regard for anymore. The rest of them, all you can just take them, stuff them down the garbage disposal. I just really don't care for them. Maxine Waters, she's an idiot. She's an idiot. Out of her mind. Hey, it's a wonder if Seth Rich didn't blow his brains out dealing with those people. The man's a hero. I regard him as one.